because you know why?
Why?
Because it feels right.
It feels right.
Legendary.
I mean, that makes sense.
Okay, so we're off.
We're off. Finally, we've had a few technical difficulties, but we're here. We're doing it. We're doing it remote, which
Sir.
I don't always like, but I feel like with you and I, we can make it happen. But ideally, these are done in person, right? But that just means you have to come to Hawaii.
Well, yeah, no, I think what we're trying to say here is everything feels right, but it does feel a little more right when we're in person. So, and if that means traveling to Hawaii, then I might just have to do that.
Which you actually are going to do in December.
Yes, December 10th through the 18th, I believe. And you're in
Hey,
Kauai, right?
hey! Be careful with your exact travel dates and arrangements. People are going to be like meeting you at the airport, coming to see Adam Stone. Careful.
I think that's probably a risk I'm willing to take. By saying that on the air, I think I'm probably
You're just
safe.
giving your moment to moment movements. You got to be real careful with that stuff in pro pickleball.
Yeah, for sure. And by the way, Robert, I don't believe that we can play Prescott.
That was going to be after.
So Casa Grande and then Prescott in December. And
is that how you say it? Prescott?
I'm pretty sure that's how the locals say it. So maybe someone can. Yeah, I mean, I said it Prescott at first, and then I heard locals say Prescott, and so I've been saying it Prescott ever since.
Weird. You know the city you're from originally?
Like what city is that?
The city in Texas that you're from originally.
Oh, Houston?
Yeah. So Georgia, the state of Georgia has a county in it. And guess how they say it? Houston.
Houston, and it's spelled the same way. So Houston
is spelled exactly the same way. I'm like, God, could you be any more Georgia by saying Houston? Like
that's your
get more redneck than that. Hey, let's just call that Houston. Like what?
So where were you born in Georgia? I know you're a Georgia boy.
I was born in Augusta, home of the
Augusta.
home of the Masters.
Home of the Masters.
That's not like a good thing, because Augusta is gorgeous at Augusta National. Outside of Augusta National, it's hood. It's not great. It's not great.
Yeah, that's how I think of Baylor University. My sister went there, Waco, Texas, and
private school, right?
Yeah, Baylor, beautiful campus is great, but it's its own city. It's its own city within the city, that's for sure.
Yeah. I went to Samford University my freshman year. Not like also private school. Like probably the most beautiful campus I've ever seen. Like the landscaping is just unreal. And Birmingham, like it's in Homewood, so it's not super hood, but there's definitely stark contrast from all these private schools. And you go outside the walls and it's like, oh
sure.
yeah, not the same.
Oh, for sure. They had a run in something. Are they good at a sport? Samford basketball, was it the NCAA tournament or something? I feel like I've seen that name somewhere.
I have no idea.
Okay, fair enough.
But I do like to say, I went to Samford, and they're like,
yeah, there you go.
Oh, Stanford, nice.
Yeah, fair enough. Okay, so Robert, what's on the agenda today? We like to keep it light without much structure, but what's on the agenda? There's got to be something.
Well, let's first off welcome everybody for listening, being a part of, joining us on the It Feels Right podcast. Dare I say the #1 pickleball podcast in the world?
Yeah, I that's quite a dare, but let's roll with it. Yes.
All right, that's how I'm going to intro every episode. Dare I say the #1 pickleball podcast in the world?
That's not much of a dare, but I like it.
So today we can go over a lot of stuff. Tournament champions just happened, TOC in Brigham City, Utah. We were just talking about that, and that used to be considered one of the quote unquote majors in pickleball. And I think after last year is my first time playing it, and I was like, Brigham's this This place is in the middle of nowhere. There's no really like amenities, restaurants, anything out there. It's what is it, like an hour, it's over an hour from Salt Lake north.
Correct. So they actually used to have the tournament in Ogden, and they moved it to
Okay.
Brigham City several years ago. So Ogden is still pretty connected to Salt Lake geographically and whatever, and Brigham is definitely its own place. And I think it is a little bit over an hour north of Salt Lake.
Yeah, and I mean it is beautiful, right? It's like, well, you know, all things considered, you got a nice mountainous backdrop. It's nice. But it's just it's a pain in the ass to get to and all that. And I remember last year, like the buzz from players. I didn't play this year, but last year, and you didn't play this year either. But last year it was, why do we come to this tournament? We're not going to come back to this. This is like, it's not fun. It used to be good, but now it's nothing. And then I think even heard some rumblings from the PPA squad of like, you know, we're thinking about, and this was last year, we're thinking about partnering with TOC. Should we do that? And I think, you know, the player consensus was like, no, we don't want to come back here. Why would you do that? So I think PPA kind of saved TOC in a sense, right? Because I think if TOC is not affiliated with the PPA or any of the tours, that most players would not have opted to play it.
Yeah, no, for sure. So there's just something about, even if it's just an hour and a half, playing all these tournaments, flying somewhere, and then having to drive once you get there. It's the same thing with St. George. Beautiful place. Love St. George, but that's a 2-hour drive from Vegas.
Stop being ridiculous and flying to St. George.
Yeah, I know. That's right. So that
just
that makes,
pay an extra $700 on airfare.
Yeah, right. Yeah. So no, there's no question about that there was some rumblings of that. Obviously 3 or 4 years ago, you didn't have the options that you do now in terms of tournament play and how many tournaments there are. You just kind of had to roll with what was available. So the fact that there's so many options, a little bit more difficult to get to Brigham City, not a thriving metropolis, that's for sure. They do have a nice Chinese buffet, but there's not a whole lot of options, especially if there's a rain delay or you get done with make a deep run in a bracket, you might not be able to get a good dinner. You might have to go to Taco Bell or something like that. So definitely it's Brigham City a little disconnected from a main center, main area, main city. So there's some things not to like from that regard, but the history of the tournament, they have a great tournament director in Kyle Klein. There's a really nice vibe there. They're accommodating to the players. You can usually get some housing. The community helps a lot, and so that's much appreciated. And you know, it was one of the first, if not the first, prize money tournaments from John Gullo, I believe. Gullo is how you say it. So yeah, so it's a contrast because I remember Mills, legend of the game, Mills Miller. You know, I had mentioned that I might take it off my schedule after last year, and you know, he was like, "Oh, you got to play TOC. You know, it means so much. There's so much prestige and whatever else that goes along with it." So I was a little torn on whether to play or not, but
do you believe that's still the case?
Less for sure. I mean, I think it was a similar situation. If some of the more old school players remember the Grand Canyon State Games, early on, there was a Grand Canyon State Games tournament, and there was a lot of prestige with it. Almost all of the top pros played. This was 5 or 6 years ago, and then it just kind of faded. And I kind of think Tournament of Champions is probably in a similar stage to that tournament.
But it's got PPA on its side, which is
right.
You know, so it loses the prestige maybe, and it's is it a major within
it was the third major,
but is it now in terms of tours, like how the tours structure their points, like, you know what I mean, like is it considered a major now or a Grand Slam?
That's a great question. I know
What's crazy, Adam, is that we don't know whether or not that tournament's a Grand Slam. We are pro players that don't know what the Grand Slam is, which goes back to kind of like this rant I went on about like we're trying to emulate these tennis tours, but there's no history or prestige unless we went to like unless truly it was like US Open, Nationals, TOC, and maybe one other one other event that we make a Grand Slam. But if we were going to use kind of tennis as the guidepost of what to do with pickleball tours, like TOC, US Open, and Nationals, and one other should be the Grand Slams, right? You can't come in as a new tour and just say, oh, Atlanta, PPA, but this is going to be a Grand Slam. Yet there's no history or prestige or like any understanding that it's even a Grand Slam. So, it's hard. It's hard to see where it's going to go, but I don't like the idea of trying to create everything from scratch and try to build prestige without there being any history behind it. You know what I mean?
No, I totally get that. And I think as of right now, in terms of the point structure, I think it's World Pickleball Rankings. I believe that's right, that the APP uses, but it's US Open, Nationals, the New York tournament, the Vegas PPA championships. And I think there might be one more, but I'm not positive on that. And those are the biggest point tournaments considered the majors. Say that again, Prof. And the Atlanta PPA. There you go. So Prof chiming in from the peanut gallery, as she likes to do.
Prof, once we get your setup, we can have all three of us on here, and we'll just really go at it. Prof and I can talk about your day-to-day issues and what's going on in your life and what you need to work on to improve as a person.
Jesus. She just got a freaking dry erase board for the kitchen, and she has a regular calendar with specific things for both of us on each of the days, and then she has on the right side there's just a list that says Adam's
chores.
Is it chores? What does it say, Prof? Oh, it's my to-do list. It's my to-do list.
Your chores.
She does not have a to-do list, but I do. So I find that very interesting, and it's gonna be a while before all three of us are on this pod because I don't like being that third wheel.
We just like lifting you up.
Yeah, that's exactly what you guys do. Lift me up, Robert. I'll tell you what, it does not feel right.
Feel like that? All right, let's talk TOC results.
Okay, yeah. Okay, I got my trusty little iPad here. We're going to go through some of the draws here. What do I have pulled up first? Oh, we have pro women singles. So first off, Robert, we have two somewhat interesting pullouts. We have Anna Bright and Callie Smith both pulling out of the women's pro singles draw.
My 14-year-old self is laughing at pullouts.
Yeah, I don't. What's the deal?
You're still not catching me.
No.
Continue.
Okay, yeah, let's do that. So what do you know exactly how it works in terms of when the tournament finds out you pull out in the redoing of a draw based on that? Do you have any idea how that works? Because I find this happening a lot. I'm someone who's had to pull out multiple times for physical issues or whatever.
Yeah,
and I always try to let the TD tournament director know as soon as possible. But it seems like a lot of times the draw stays the same. They have a withdrawal, and it throws off the seedings. Yeah, no, that's what I'm saying. I won't. So
you won't be in the draw.
So if I tell them at like say 3 or 4 p.m. the previous day, they used to be able to switch it, and I feel like maybe the last time or two that I did pull out, they weren't able to. I don't know. So I should probably know that, but I do not. So because it really messes up the draw with the seedings and everything when a highly ranked player pulls out and they still play the draw as is, as opposed to starting a fresh draw. So
yeah, I don't understand why that's such a challenge, right? It's like the draw should be. I've seen draws adjusted morning of sometimes. There's a tournament. I don't remember. It was mixed. It was mixed in. It was at Newport at some point, but we were playing our first round match. It was me. Oh, it was Megan Sheehan Dizon, and it was like our first. It was like maybe her first tournament ever. We were supposed to play, I think, Brasha and Kohler, and we were on court. And we're like, dude, we're like deep into the first game. It's like 8-8 or something, and then, and then I think Connor or like Pardo or Ogden comes over. And it's like, oh, we need to bring you guys in. The draw's adjusted. I'm like, we're in the middle of playing our first round match. What do you mean the draw's adjusted? And then like we had a different first round opponent. Like they changed the draw after we had already started our first round match.
No.
Oh yeah, dude. Oh
this is real. This is real.
This is real.
Oh,
this
wow.
is a PPA. This is real. So yeah, I don't know. And it was the exact same reason. Somebody had pulled out morning of. It affected the seedings, and then they adjusted it that moment. So what do you feel like is the correct answer? Like adjust draws and brackets up to like, let's call it midnight the night before?
Yes, I think for sure. Obviously like morning of, it gets dicey, even if it is whatever 9 or 10 a.m. start, and it's hard to adjust it at that point. But there has to be, I think there has to be a cutoff the night before, where if the tournament director gets that information, they have to put a fresh draw. And I mean, we're talking about Callie Smith and Anna Bright here. I mean, that's I don't know what their exact seeds, but those are two very much contenders in the women's singles draw. That's obviously going to affect a lot of what's happening if those two aren't playing. And as we see,
so what happened in this draw? They were listed in the draw, and then they had walkovers for their opponents.
Yeah. So Blue Pegasus Washington advanced because Callie pulled out, and then played Irina next round, and then there was Allie Phillips, who I think actually is a local kind of younger girl, maybe like around 20 years old or so. And she got a walkover as well. So Anna Bright was the 6th seed. Callie Smith was the 4 seed. So I think you have to, if you know that information, you have to put out a fresh draw with that. I mean, even if they're not even seeded that high, this is an example of they are seeded that high. So for sure, but I think you need to do it either way.
And singles was on. So this tournament's it's Utah. So they did championship Saturday, right? So singles started on Wednesday, and then mixed Thursday, gender Friday, championship Saturday.
Right.
So singles is the first event of the tournament. Those are, you said it was Callie Smith and who?
Callie Smith and Anna Bright.
Okay. So Callie Smith, contracted player. I feel like there's no reason it should be a surprise that she's not playing, unless you just literally didn't tell anybody, which that seems unlikely.
Sure.
So it seems like they would have that information. It's not like Anna and Callie just didn't show up Wednesday morning, right?
Yeah, no, absolutely. I mean, I can't imagine
that's the case.
That's possible, but I can't imagine that's the case either. So totally agree with that. Yeah, I'm trying to look here and see what it affects. So if you take Callie out as the 4 seed, that puts Irina in the 4 seed, and you take Anna Bright out. So that changes everything. So that goes from Salome Davidze playing Parento to being up in the top half, playing Irina in the 4-5 matchup, and the winner of that plays Annalise. So I mean, these are huge things that are affected by the draw. So let's see here. Yeah, so Salome Davidze, I mean, she's obviously legit. So she's kind of fresh, but her ground strokes are ridiculously good, and to move her to a different half of the draw is obviously a huge factor in the whole tournament. So definitely. And unfortunately I was watching not all, but in and out throughout the days, relaxing and doing some some rehab of calf raises of some sort. Jesus, you weren't lying. Doing 1,000 reps is difficult.
Are you doing a ton?
Yeah, I'm doing a ton. So
it's time consuming.
Anyway, so I watched a lot of the pickleball, and unfortunately there is some very funny chat, but kind of ruthless chat as well. So they were not happy with
line calls.
Line calls. They were not happy with it, and I think that there was an issue in the previous tournament with Georgia Johnson, and I think Mama Bear Julie Johnson might have had some words from the back of the court to while she was playing Georgia. So unfortunate to see that, but
it is. But I kind of like that about pickleball in terms of like that shit runs rampant in like tennis, you know, like you can do it and you can get away with it and you can keep doing it and people just don't care. But like we've talked about this a lot, like all in all, pickleball, most people in pickleball and pro pickleball are super fair. Like they call lines cleanly, give the benefit of the doubt. There aren't many blatant hooks. There's some, but there's not many. And the fact that like somebody's coming in and like doing some blatant hooks, in my opinion, like it's some of them aren't even like close.
Right.
So I think for people to defend, like to come in and like say that's not okay and to actually throw a fuss about it is good because it's hopefully going to deter that behavior. And honestly, like with all the live streaming, it's like you have nowhere to hide anymore. You can't make these calls and expect zero repercussions. Like people can see it, and people don't like people that cheat. So
no, for sure. I totally agree with you that it runs rampant in tennis. And there's just so many, even like high level tennis tournaments where you don't have a referee per court and you're on the side courts just ripping people, or if there is a chaired umpire, you can always, take one on the far sideline or whatever. So it's tough to see a couple of these calls happening with the 2-ref system too, which is, kind of crazy. What one ref is in a very tough spot because they're looking at feet and kitchen, and it's almost impossible. But to have 2 refs where one isn't even focused, their main priority be the kitchen, and to see that these calls happen and not be overruled is a little frustrating for sure.
I've said it a million times. We need even for foot faults, the refs are in a bad spot to actually be able to see them, especially like if let's say I'm on the near side and somebody's earning on my side, I can't see the back of their foot on the inside of the line. It's completely shielded. You can't see it.
Sure.
Like I think we have to have chair umpires. We have to give them a better look from higher up to where you can actually look down on a lot of the stuff and have a clear view, especially for line calls. Like a ref standing at just normal height, it's so hard to see line calls, especially on the far side of the court when you're that low. The angle is just not good enough to be able to determine whether it was in or out. So I think chair umpires is still a thing. I know it creates a lot of logistics issues getting chairs everywhere, but most of these facilities are tennis facilities. They probably have chairs like available. One thing that I saw at TOC that I think's a little bit of a scary precedent to set. I believe it was with Leia. I think it was TOC. I just remember seeing this match. It was with Leia Jansen and I think Salome.
Mm-hmm.
And I think Leia called, like she requested line judges.
Oh yeah, I saw that. That's exactly it. Was TOC, and they came out before the match even started and had 4 line judges from the request from Leia from a previous match. So I believe it was Catherine on an outer court having issues with Salome, and Leia and Catherine, I believe, are partners. So I think Catherine, this is speculation, probably told Leia she had issues, and then Leia went into that match with line judges there. So continue. Go ahead.
Yeah. So I didn't realize it was before the match. I thought it happened mid-match, but regardless, a player requesting line judges is a little bit of a scary precedent to set in terms of like, when do you say yes? When do you say no? Do you do it situationally based on who that person's playing and their reputation? Like it's very subjective, right? It's like, okay, so now you accept that request from Leia, but are you going to accept that request from me if I want a line judge for my pro singles match? It's just like a weird thing to do. And usually what surprised me the most was that like you had I think you said 4, like they were on each line.
I believe it was 4 total. Yes.
Yeah. Usually you'll have like, an extra set of eyes. So you have, instead of, you'll have somebody just watching lines. You won't have actual line judges lining up when that's not like what pro matches do. Like You don't have that. So that just felt strange to me, and a little probably I don't know, preferential treatment to PPA players, which, you know, I get it. They're signed PPA players, and you want to protect them and give them, you know, every kind of benefit. But at the same time, I feel like these tournaments, you have to be equal opportunity, and it's just a weird precedent to set when, you know, they probably wouldn't have accepted that request if, let's say, Salome did it and wanted the request for Leia. You know what I mean?
There's just there just can't. I mean, we've seen it from MLP. There just cannot be gray area. If there is any form of gray area, there's going to be some form of uproar, or someone's going to take advantage, or they're going to try to find that little loophole and make it bigger. So it's gray area is just unacceptable. So there just has to be something black and white on paper about. I mean, and it's a delicate with the line calls. Like what how do you make that black and white?
Well, I thought that's what the challenge system was for.
Yeah, right. So it is interesting that you bring that up. I had totally forgot about that happened. And I actually think it's interesting that it happened pre-match as well. It was not during. I could be wrong about this. Like I said, I was in and out watching throughout the day, but I do believe it was pre-match, and I think that is pretty interesting, actually.
No, it is. It is because, like again, precedent set. Go request your line judges, people, before the match. They have to grant it.
Yeah, right. There you go. Oh, don't start this, Rob. Come on, man. Come on. You need a month or two off from any form of drama or any form of any form of rules issues. Okay, so
yes, I do. I need a break.
Okay, so
but I can egg other people on. You know, it's fine.
Fair enough. All right, I'll give you that. Okay, so that was just women's singles. Let's scratch that, and we'll move over to pro men's singles.
Well, Anna Lee won, right?
Sorry, I just exited out. Anna Lee won.
Who did she beat in the best of 5?
She beat Leia, and it was in 3 games. It was in 3 games.
Pretty routine.
Pretty routine. 3 games. Yeah, 3 out of 5. 3 out of 5. So 3 games was not the split. So we got the fellas here, and I would guess that the big kind of maybe not totally surprising, but definitely a little surprising is Hunter Johnson had a nice run. He beat Tyson McGuffin in the 2nd round and ended up coming all the way back through after losing to Baby Dill in the quarterfinals and came all the way back through to get a bronze medal. So he had a big win in the 2nd round and then came all the way back through. And I'll check it out here, but I have no doubt if he came all the way back through to get bronze after losing in the quarters, he beat some players.
Right. So who did he take down in the bronze match? Jocelyn, is that right?
Okay, so let's see here. So he beat Ryan Sherry 15-10.
That's a good win.
He beat Staxrud 15-11.
That's legit.
And then he beat Jay Delivers 11-0 in the 3rd. So it went 3 in the bronze medal match, but he won 11-0 in the 3rd. So that's big time stuff from Hunter. I know he's had a couple solid wins in doubles and singles, but never really translated that to hardware.
He beat J-Dub, right? Like earlier, like in a APP somewhere.
I think that might be right. Might be right. So
you knew the talent was there, but this is a good breakthrough for him.
Right. So not only did he beat a couple quality players, he also got some hardware as well. So that's a great job by Hunter. No doubt about it. I commentated a couple of his matches on the singles day. So it was cool to see. And I mean, you beat Sherry and you beat Staxrud and then you beat Delivers back to back to back. That's pretty legit.
Yeah, and this is kind of a testament to the Hunter and Yates twins. I believe they're twins.
Yes, they are.
So good, decently highly ranked doubles players, right? In tennis, I believe was the case, and kind of seeing the transition from tennis to pickleball and singles can happen quick. Obviously, doubles is much more nuanced, but you can see these guys come in and get good singles results quickly. So I think that's just going to continue to happen. I think singles is going to be super deep. It's just going to make me want to play less and less. It's the whole draw is good now, which didn't used to be the case.
Totally. I talked about those exact same things on the live stream. It's like those days of 3-1, 2-1, your first 2 matches are long gone. So you better be ready to grind the whole time. So, and Hunter, he's kind of in that annoying group of super like effortless power and effortless movement, kind of with Ignatowicz and Thomas Wilson, those guys that are just super smooth and, you know, nothing looks difficult. And, you know, just like anyone else, sometimes those guys plateau and only get a little bit better. But if you're looking for someone who really has a sky high ceiling, it's going to, one of those guys with the easy court coverage and the easy power is often one of those players that does skyrocket.
Yeah, agreed. And yeah, shout out. So Hunter and Yates are, I think, New Braunfels, where Thomas Wilson lives. So I think they practice together some, but also close to San Marcos, Texas, which is where you and I have spent a lot of time with Christina and Walter Dorman. So
for sure,
the Johnsons have come through just another graduate of the Dorman Training Academy. We talked about that before.
And I think that they're both the twins. Not 100% sure on this, but I keep in being on the same MLP team. I keep in touch with Viv David quite a bit, and so I think that they've been doing some practice sessions at Dreamland. And I think Hunter and Vivienne have a handful of tournaments as well. I don't know if that's the end of this year or beginning of next year. So, you know, as he obviously continues to get better and possibly get some better tournament partners for the tournaments as well, we'll see if he can be a little more consistent, making a run in the last, you know, 4, 5, 6 spots, possibly medaling as well.
Always thought this was like, it's weird for twins, right? It's like, is Yates like annoyed? Like, why is he medaling? Like,
well,
you know what I mean?
Totally. I think at the New Jersey Open, Hunter beat Yates, so he got pretty deep in the fifth, sixth spot match or something, and ended up beating Yates like 18-16 or something like that. So no, totally. There's that probably slight annoying factor.
Like I beat you in practice every day. How are you getting these results?
Yeah, for sure. It's kind of like, you know, like when I'm not playing near as much with Deckel, and then that first match. That first tournament, Deckel's playing with J-Dub, and they lose. They don't medal, and they lose to Althoff and someone. No offense to Althoff, you're a very good player, Althoff, but you know, I'm just kind of have that smirk on my face, like, Deckel,
you can't win without me.
You can't win without me. What the hell? So I think everyone can't help but have those thoughts occasionally. Yeah. But they seem pretty tight, and I know they're pulling for each other. But I think that there was probably something there, like, what the hell, man? You know, why isn't that me? Why is that you, not me?
So and then big props to Dylan on Championship Sunday too. That's a good result to get through the winners bracket, to get there. Especially, dude, it's wild. We see all these tennis guys coming in, high level tennis guys, and Baby Dill has 0 tennis background, which it's interesting, right? Because people are always like, oh, do you have a racket sports background? And, you know, Dylan's going to say no, but Dylan's also been playing pickleball since probably the same age that I started playing tennis. You know what I mean?
He's been playing for 10 or 11 years. I think.
That's what I'm saying. So
something like that. Yeah.
So it's like, it doesn't matter if he played tennis. He's been playing pickleball for so long that, yes, he does have a racket sports background. It's pickleball.
Correct. you know what I mean? So, I mean, for someone like me or you mid-30s, me 40, you know, having that racket sport background's huge. Him being 20 or 21 and having played for 10 or 11 years, it's a completely different situation.
It's a non-issue.
Yeah, completely different situation. Still cool though, because you're basically playing tennis on a mini court in singles, you know. So very cool to see him competing with these guys that actually had, you know, ATP points and ATP rankings. So very cool. Brought that up on the stream as well. You know, I'm not sure.
You're just doing a bunch of shameless plugs about your commentary on the stream.
Oh yeah, no, that's 2. That's only 2. Well, I mean, it's kind of a similar situation here. We're just talking nonsense. That's what I do on the stream. So we're talking nonsense on the podcast. So there's a lot of overlap there, Robert. Let me roll with it. Let me live my life. Come on, man. But let's just do one more plug. So I think what I'm going to start doing is do the commentary on the APPs for Thursday, and if I don't make Championship Sunday, do it then, and then play.
That's going to be far and few between.
Yeah, like 90+% I'll be on Championship Sunday, of course. So so that's I'm looking forward to that. So a little commentary on singles, possibly some commentary on Championship Sunday, and then playing on Friday and Saturday. So that's the plan moving forward. So that's kind of exciting.
If they're smart, they'd put us in the booth together for the commentary.
Oh yeah, no, absolutely, for sure.
If they're smart.
If they're smart. So.
Okay, what else we got? We got.
Well, yeah, let's look here. So that's okay. So that's singles.
Just one last note on, and I didn't know about this until I saw it on NML's takeaways from TOC, and just like we brought on the weird precedent set of line judges being called on court before the match, just for kind of a standalone match for a PPA player. So it said that. And I hadn't heard about this at all, but it said that the singles final, men's singles final on Championship Saturday was supposed to start at 10 a.m. And it was announced over the loudspeaker several times. And then I think last minute it was adjusted to be 10:45 because of video production issues, but they didn't see Ben arriving, or people saw Ben arriving like at 10:20 or 10:30 with flip-flops on before warming up. And it's assumed that he was just late, and the PPA adjusted the start time based on his not being there yet, which, if you reverse that situation and let's call it Baby Dill isn't there at 10 and he's like, rolling up at 10:20, 10:30, like that match is already over, right? It's like that's just going to be a default.
Yeah, no, I have no idea. I hadn't heard anything about this till you mentioned it. But yes, it's hard given some previous stuff and what I know of things. It would be hard to think that it would be the same for someone else.
Yeah.
So, that's a very interesting situation. Very interesting situation. And I could totally see it having, them making that adjustment for their top player.
Yeah. So again, gray areas that probably shouldn't exist, that we just need, the tours are bigger than any one person. Like they should have their regulations, their rules, stand by them. If players can abide by them, they do. If they don't, all rules should apply to everybody.
Oh no, definitely. You have to have that. I mean, you have to have that in a rec situation, like an amateur situation, and totally. When you're adding in money, pro players, people committing to being full-time at this, their gray area is just completely unacceptable. People will take advantage and it will cause problems. It's just a fact.
Yep.
But yes, no, that is a very interesting little tidbit there. No idea the exact details about that. I'm sure someone else will talk about it. We'll
hit us up.
Hear what they have to say. Yeah, right.
Comment on what happened.
Okay, so here next we have mixed. We have Annalie and Ben at gold, Callie, AJ silver, Jesse and Jay delivers bronze. I believe that Annalie did not lose a game in her Triple Crown victory, which is pretty crazy to think that.
It's ludicrous. Yeah,
it's ludicrous, especially even add in the 3 out of 5 in the for the championship Saturday, and she did not lose a game. So crazy stuff from Annalie. She's just obviously just the best. She's obviously best. I don't know how else to say it right now. So let's see if there's anything else exciting. That's obviously pretty chalky for the medalists with Callie and AJ sneaking into that championship Saturday.
Good result for them.
Great result for them. Kind of that maybe lower floor, higher ceiling than that bronze team of Jesse Irvin and Jay Delivers, who just seem to always be there, but maybe might lack a little firepower that Callie and AJ can bring. So let's see, anything else interesting. We had the Newmans losing in the quarters to Smith and Kohler, so I wouldn't say that is interesting at all, but it does kind of seem that overall Riley's had a little bit more success maybe with Catherine than Lindsay, even though on a per tournament basis anyway.
I think it's also just a tough place for them to play with elevation, with the hard Dura, a little tougher conditions like that. I think that's going to favor, people with firepower, as we saw in the men's final, right? So
for sure. No, that's totally true. Their offense is forcing you to go for, more than you want on the 37th offensive shot that you have after they've dug out 36 of them. Yeah. So when you can kind of that hard ball, that altitude, you're absolutely right, Rob. You can light people up more. You can attack body, pretzel them up, jam them up. The hand speed is you just have less time in those conditions, and I think that definitely is not optimal for the Newmans.
No.
Let's see anything else here of note. No, pretty chalky for the most part.
Women's doubles. I didn't know this until I actually saw I saw it somewhere. But Vivienne David, Susannah Barr, bronze with. Do you have that pulled up? That draw?
I do. I just pulled it up. I'm clicking to show all charts right now, Robert.
Oh, beautiful. Oh. Speaking of that, there has to be a better way to look for random people to look up results of pickleball tournaments rather than going to pickleballtournaments.com and navigating the maze of nonsense through there.
Yeah, no crap. So, I mean, I'm a tech idiot as it is. But I mean, man, they don't make it easy.
No.
So, okay. Yeah. So we have, yes, Vivienne and Susannah Barr, who came in as the 7th seed. And just so you know, I have no idea why, but not only is Susannah Barr the dark horse, she is the net lord as well. So whatever. So they beat Melinda Wilkins and Etta Wright, two locals on the Utah scene, 2 and 6. They lost to the Waters in their second round match, and then kind of went on a run back through the back draw with a couple really big wins. So let me take a look at that. So we have them beating Tereshchenko and Grechkina, 15-8. We have David.
That's a good win.
Totally. Totally. Absolutely. Then very next round, we have them taking out Jessie Irvin and Anna Bright, 15-7. Fantastic win. And then, right. And then beating Catherine and Leia, 7 and 6 in the bronze medal match. So that is 3 very, very solid wins from David.
And not even super close.
Totally. None of that is tight. 15-8, 15-7, and then 7 and 6 in the bronze match. So well played by them.
I think they're, and this is why, you can't just really look at 2 individual players in terms of their results to see how a partnership will do. You have Vivienne, who's she wants to live on the right side. She doesn't ever want to play the left side. And Susannah loves the left side. So when you kind of put 2 people together like that are super comfortable on their respective sides, you can have really, really good results that you to us looking 7 seed, surprising results, right? But when you put them on sides where they're super comfortable and really confident, it makes all the difference.
No, totally. And I think we'll see more and more of this as, we've talked about it before, designated roles, people getting so good at their craft that it's going to be hard to be both. So if you have 2 left guys, you might need there might be a situation where there's two left studs and one might be better off playing with Johnny Goldberg or somebody like that.
100%.
That's a total right side supporting player. So shout out to Goldberg.
That's a perfect segue into the men's final, which, there's been a lot of buzz around in terms of style of play, really. But we talked about it. It's Utah, it's the Dura, it's elevation, it's fast conditions. And it was probably the most offensive and aggressive pickleball that we've seen in a final, or really in any tournament, I would say. It was very, very aggressive pickleball. There weren't long rallies. It was pull the trigger early and often. And for Newman and Wright, it worked.
No, absolutely. And I think that it was cool to see the conditions played a factor. But we all know that the Johnsai are very algorithm structured, like their patterns and their situations. Yep. And Ben likes to be a bully. So if they're definitely not saying that he has slow hands, but if there is one possible thing that maybe on that scale of 1 to 10 isn't a 8, 9, or a 10, it could possibly be some susceptibility to being attacked. And
100%.
When you put it back on him and don't let him move around and start the fire, and you kind of beat him to it. I think that is, obviously not a situation that's going to guarantee you a victory by any means, but it could be a good option to kind of throw him and Colin out of the rhythm. So I think that's exactly what we saw with Riley and Matt. And the conditions were great. They played great. And I think it's another solid job of sticking to a game plan. They obviously wanted to fire away. And they did lose that first game. And there was some thunderous counters from Colin and Ben throughout that first game, but they stuck with the game plan. They decided they were going to continue to be aggressive. They weren't going to just go to a slow game after it didn't work game one. And it was 11-1, 12-10, 11-6 in games 2, 3, and 4. So fantastic job by them. And I love to see it.
I think that's what you just mentioned is probably the most impressive thing to me, is that after that first game, they didn't get discouraged and they stuck with the game plan, because it's easy after that first game, like to throw up, to press the emergency button and try to like adjust right there. Like you see that a lot in pickleball at the pro level, especially. You say, okay, this is our strategy. You do it a couple times. It doesn't work. Then you're like, okay, we got to change the strategy. It's like the sample set of what you just did is so small that you have to keep going. You have to, like, if this is a strategy, you can't do it once or twice and it not work and then bail on the strategy. You got to stick with it the whole time, even though it's hard, it's frustrating, and you have to stay disciplined to do it. But you can't get discouraged. And that was impressive to me that Matt and Riley stuck with the game plan, even though they got lit up the first game, and it paid off.
Oh, no, definitely. Absolute. Very fun to watch. Very entertaining. Lots of hands battles. And there was some chippiness and some jawing going on too. And I think we've gotten pretty used to that with Matt Wright, but Riley Newman was very much the biggest instigator on court from what I saw. Saw a couple. I'm not sure what game it was, but went to touch paddles, and Riley's lips were moving the whole time.
I liked
so
it. Yeah.
So I'm not sure exactly what he was saying, of course, but there was some tension, and there was some palpable just energy and crap talking going on. And so, maybe Matt and Riley are meant for each other, because they both like to do that. That's both part of their games. And it was definitely an interesting dynamic out there. And I enjoyed it.
Yeah, I didn't see it, but apparently in the first game, Ben had a finger wag, and that kind of kicked off the chippiness, but got him a pissed off Matt and Riley, which,
sure,
there's not too many guys that actually play better when they're like pissed. Those two guys, yeah, you're right. Like maybe they are meant for each other, because they step up their games when they start chirping and getting loud and angry, and like they played really well. And I think just in terms of like actual tactical strategy, what was interesting to see, and it's no secret, right? Like Ben sits pretty heavy forehand. His grip's leaning to Eastern pretty heavily too, meaning it's more of a forehand grip rather than like a continental, which is a little bit more neutral to forehand and backhand. That's why you can see him just crush forehands on counter sometimes, which is why it's no secret that you want to attack him on his left hip or even left shoulder, because he's not going to be able to get on top of that and counter. He's just going to block it. And we saw Matt Wright, who was head on with Ben, really do a good job mixing it up off the bounce. So he would go left hip, and then he would go body, and then he would go middle of the court. Just kept him guessing, and then Riley would pinch hard middle with the pancake, and unless Ben hits a perfect reset or perfect counter, if he floats a little bit, Riley's pancake's right there in the middle, and like that's a dangerous combo in pickle. It might be the most dangerous combo in pickleball, of Matt forehand off the bounce with Riley just sitting pancake in the middle. It's tough to manage.
Yeah, no, I think it's probably the best shot in pickleball right now is single shot is Riley's pancake. So you're exactly right. So you can see them kind of getting more comfortable with Matt. Exactly right, doing the speed. But the same thing with when Tyson and Riley played together. It's like their whole strategy is to get an exchange started and then have Riley just move to the center of the court and clean up with the pancake. So that was the pattern often when Deckel and I played them. It was like Tyson would often speed up at me cross court, just knowing that my backhand counter is going to go in the vicinity of Riley, and that is a good situation for them. So to see, I think obviously Tyson is better than Matt at some aspects of the game, but the initiations and the speed ups and the hand speed, I do not believe he is as good at those specific things. So that combination with Riley, if they can continue to refine that and continue to work on that, and Matt can know exactly where he needs to be on the second, third, fourth shot after he speeds up, and Riley can start moving to the middle to clean up, that's going to be a tough nut to crack right there for sure.
100%. And because, I mean, we're looking at two traditionally left-sided players, right? Like Matt's not necessarily, like, he's played a lot on the right because he played with Ben and he's playing now with Riley. But let's be honest, Matt's a left side player. He likes the left side more, but he's getting very, very comfortable on the right and getting really good at it. And his forehand speed up off the bounce is really good because he disguises it really well. It looks like it's going to be a dink. And then I think the most impressive part is not necessarily the initial speed up, but he's so on that second and third ball. His hand speed's so quick. And then, you know, if he's not on it, Riley's right there. It's, yeah, you're right. If they continue to refine kind of their strategy and their game plan, they're like, we're talking like what, Matt's 44, 45,
I believe,
and
he's
still 44, has,
yeah.
And I would say his hand speed straight up with Ben was better than Ben, you know, who's half his age. So it's also just a really cool aspect of pickleball, of being able to have a 45-year-old have faster hands than, you know, the person half your age right in front of you.
Yeah, no, I've always said that, you know, maybe he's not the most, but I think that Matt is one of the most skilled, if not more skilled than Ben, in terms of just a feel, manipulating the ball, hand speed. Now, Ben is significantly more athletic than him. He scrambles better, he moves better, you know, all that stuff. So I think total package, obviously Ben is the better player, but Matt is extremely skilled. And I think when he first was playing with Ben on the right, it was a little bit of a struggle, not because he didn't have the skill set to do it, but him committing to that role. And he's done a much better job at the end of his partnership with Ben, and now his partnership with Riley, committing to the right side role. And just, you said it, the most impressive thing is not the forehand speed up. It's him committing and being ready with his backhand on the next ball. And he's not even worried about hitting a forehand. He's speeding up, stepping to his right, and then the backhand is just so on point, and he hits it so clean and crisp, and everything to the right side of his body when he takes that step to the right is out, and everything to the left side of his body is Riley. And similar to what me and Deckel would do as well.
One thing of note that many people mention, they're like, all of Matt's speed ups are going out. Why don't they just let him go? And I'm like, you'd be surprised, man. Like I think most of his speed ups are going in. Mm-hmm. Like that's the most impressive part. I mean, he's going right at your body. He's just pulling the trigger at your chest, sure. But the most impressive part of that initial speed up is he's getting good pace on it, and most of them are landing in.
No, definitely. So yeah, it'll be interesting to see. I think the John Zai had a busy summer and maybe had a couple tournaments they didn't play. So if there could possibly be, you know, a string of 6 or 7 tournaments where those two teams play each other 4 or 5 times, it'll be real interesting to see the adjustments both teams make, and all that good stuff moving forward for sure.
I think the Vegas line in a 3 out of 5 will have Matt and Riley as the favorites.
Yeah, I think so. I think it's very slight right now, but after that performance, we'll also see if maybe there's 90 degrees the next tournament at sea level. We'll see if that they continue to go with that strategy, or it's much more difficult for them to execute than, you know, with a harder ball at the altitude. So I think that'll be very interesting to see.
Yeah, I think last note on this is on this match is unpredictability in terms of not getting into, kind of like you said, like Ben wants to control the dink rallies. He wants to be the bully and push and like really move the ball around on dinks and wait for that, you know, that ball that's just a little high that he can flick. you didn't see many, like you don't see Ben or Colin attack off the bounce much. You'll see Colin do it sometimes where he's just kind of, but you see it, right? Like it's like a big wind up and he does it.
It's big,
and it's never usually a dink. It's usually a speed up.
Yeah,
you know. But I think that's also a differentiator. If you can attack off a neutral dink off the bounce, which Matt did it at will on the forehand. Riley owned CJ honestly head on. Like his speed ups off the bounce to CJ. I've never seen CJ look so discombobulated. Like he was tangled up. Like he was not comfortable. And
he seemed very late on his slide. CJ. He was getting kind of this area of his right side, and normally he slides much quicker, and he's on that, and he doesn't get beat on the right side of his body, but he was in that.
I think Riley's actually there's not too many guys on that play that left side that have a really good down the line speed up. And Riley was able to kind of thread the needle to get to the right of CJ a couple times, which probably just threw CJ off a bit in terms of like covering middle and, covering line. But yeah, so that's also differentiated though, being able to attack off the bounce versus Ben and Colin, who just didn't do it very often.
Yeah, they like structure. It's a fact. I mean,
so
they like structure.
Wild amount of lobs. Like you always get a lot of lobs with Matt off the kind of that dink roll out of the air to float over. But like we also saw like a weird pattern of when Matt and Riley were scrambling, they'd be both back and just throwing up sky high lobs into the wind, and like Ben really struggled with putting anything away.
Right. Yes, that's the funniest thing. I mean, we saw a few offensive lobs as well, but most of it was just backpedaling and throwing it up from that. And somehow 7 shots later, getting back to neutral or getting back to the kitchen. And we saw it very frequently. So I like lobbing them. It's just another way to create some confusion. Colin doesn't like being lobbed. Sometimes when Colin doesn't cover, Ben gets annoyed, and then you cause a little dissension between the brothers, and that's always a good thing because that can happen with them for sure. So it's just another way to stop them from being structured in the patterns that they want to be in. That could be attacking off the bounce early, it could be lobbing, it could be whatever, and you have to do it because when they're in control of the patterns and everything's structured, they go from 50-50 with Matt and Riley to probably 3-1 favorites when there's not that confusion created.
100%.
Okay. All right. No, that's good. Good. We'll scratch the TOC tournament for there. I think that was a good recap. And I was actually, Robert, involved in a trade for Major League Pickleball. And that trade is I was a team member of the Mad Drops. That was myself, Corinne Carr, Julian Arnold, and Vivienne David. And the team Jackrabbits was AJ Kohler, Mary and Maggie Brascia, and Wes Gabrielson. So the trade that happened was AJ Kohler and Mary Brascia getting traded to the Mad Drops for myself and Vivienne David. So
can you talk about how this kind of unfolded? Like who let you know? Like can you run us through kind of the timeline of like and how you got notified and all that stuff?
I got notified that I got notified that I was traded.
by who?
So this was I believe it was it was Zubin, which is the team owner of the Mad Drops. So he called me and said, "Hey, I just wanted to let you know you've been traded. Thanks for everything." That, and then I was on the phone with new owner Richie for the Jackrabbits, and so I didn't really have any say in it or any knowledge of it or anything, and
until that phone call with Zubin.
Right? So. Yeah, so that's interesting. That's an interesting part of MLP so far is, I think we might have talked about this first episode, how some owners are very connected with their players and letting them be very making a lot of the decisions regarding the team. And some of them are kind of not as kind of making their own choices and kind of pulling triggers on some stuff without as much help. So
Yeah.
Don't know exactly who falls into each category, but that's kind of how it seems with some of the moves that have been made so far.
And I know Richie's one of the more involved team owners. Richie's pretty intimate in what's going on in pro pickleball and knows players very well and like follows results quite closely. I would say probably the most connected team owner to pro pickleball in the current landscape of what's happening.
Right.
So,
and he also he took some flack for his previous trade, where he traded a Jackie Kawamoto for to get Maggie Brasha.
Yeah.
Mary Brasha was already on the team, so to get Maggie Brasha. So so he took a little flack there because I think that not talking bad about the Brashas at all, but Kawamoto's pretty legit. So I don't think that Jackie probably played her absolute best in that first MLP, but you obviously saw last MLP that, she's a baller. She doesn't miss much. Great player. So he's going for it. Last of 3 events for this year's MLP before there'll be a new draft for, I think they're looking at going for 6 events for next year. So Richie pulled the trigger again. Maybe wasn't thrilled with his last move, so he went for it again, and it's kind of a standard 2 good, very good, solid players for 1 higher end player. So you see this a lot in fantasy football and things like that, where Vivienne and myself being kind of that solid middle of the pack. Vivienne much higher than me in women's than men's, but AJ Kohler kind of has that upside to be one of the top 2 or 3 men in the event. I think it definitely makes some sense for both teams, but AJ's definitely a stud, and he if you matched him up with me, I would say we're probably pretty even in singles, but he definitely has the edge in both doubles, mixed and gender. So AJ's a stud for sure.
I think, and this is an interesting thing in MLP is, so we have Richie that owns or is part owner in Jackrabbits, but also owner of BLQK, which is a little strange for pro sports, right? You usually aren't able to own 2 different teams in the same league. And I think that should be the case with MLP, even though there's not necessarily financial incentive for the owners. Like if BLQK wins the championship, I don't think these owners are getting any kind of bonus or more equity or more anything. But at the same time, like that's still a major conflict of interest having ownership in 2 teams, right? Like you can, and I'm not saying Richie is, because I don't think he is, and I don't think he would. But you can manipulate stuff having 2 teams, right? You can, and he's one of the more active owners in terms of trades and looking at different options and stuff like that. So I'm not a big fan of being able to own more than 1 team. I think it just creates unnecessary issues. And again, like I know MLPs, like they said, they're in hyper growth mode. They're trying to figure things out. They're trying to push this thing forward, push the sport forward. But in my opinion, shouldn't be allowed. And we'll see if it changes in the future.
No, I think I agree with you, Robert. And also I know that there has been a few players that have possibly been just kind of advisors to some of the team owners. And I think that that's a little delicate as well. I don't know.
Sense?
I don't know all the specifics. This was kind of just kind of some of the team owners asking players that are on other teams for advice about a draft or whatever the case may be. So just the fact that one player could be on a team and then have another owner asking that player about how is this player? You played with them 3 tournaments ago. What do you think about them? That kind of stuff. I definitely think it could be a little bit cleaner. Just like you think, having that little overlap, being a team owner could also, possibly some issues could arise from that. So interesting for sure.
Gray areas.
Gray areas. They're tough. They're tough.
No gray areas. Let's remove them all.
Gray areas and people are tough enough as it is, but if you throw in a gray area combined with the person, that makes them really tough. So people are going to go for it.
And I think there's going to be, this, like you said, this is it's the last MLP event this year, going to be in Columbus, Ohio, October 14th to 16th, at an indoor venue. I've never been to Columbus, not necessarily pumped to go to Ohio, but hey, I'm doing it. But I think with this being the last event of the year and kind of the last event with all the players on their respective teams, we're going to see a few more, I would say we're going to see some more activity, a flurry of activity with trades, with drops, the supplemental draft coming up. We've had some players get some really, really solid results, since the last supplemental draft happened where players could be added. So I would expect some new players like Tardio came in for me and crushed. Like I'd be shocked if he didn't get picked up by somebody.
Yeah, no, definitely. I totally agree with you. And I think that there's, that we talked about the first pod, that small sample size and people really making decisions and pulling triggers with, not a ton of information. And I think when that happens, we'll see more activity basically. So I know, I haven't been on court. I don't think I'm going to get dropped, but I haven't played the previous two and, so who knows what's going to happen there. I know. So
you think the team owner maybe looks at you as a little risky in terms of they might have to pick up an alternate based on like you just being a question mark based on your availability?
Yeah, that and just, I feel like I'm very much in the, for this format in the top 24 men, but, I haven't been on court. There's a lot of up and comers, very talented young players. Maybe I could even get dropped, even though I was involved in that trade or whatever. So I know Corinne was a little bit worried about it. I know I talked to Joey. Joey was not happy with how he played in that small sample at the Newport tournament. So there's just going to be a lot of stuff going on. And that's, not to mention probably 4 or 5 other players that, maybe didn't play their best game. You combine that with Tardio or a Hunter Johnson or somebody, that has obviously is young and has upside. It's enticing. You see it on the NML vlog all the time or blog. Corinne and I talk about it all the time. It's like we are established pro players who are not particularly sexy in our games, but just kind of just rock solid and kind of get results. And the bottom line is, we are not as sexy as Lena or Tardio or somebody that has that upside, but not.
That's a great point.
But that has that upside, but doesn't get consistent results at all. And, a lot of that has to do with, partners that you get, but upside and being solid is always a little bit of a back and forth and a tough thing to know what's better. So.
Yeah, and we saw I think the Ranchers left a pretty interesting blueprint of, I also think that trade was interesting in terms of, they've got 2 number 1 women, right? Which is a huge deal. And they have, Ignatowicz, which came in and didn't play well in men's, right? I think we talk about that all the time for guys coming from tennis, singles, it goes singles, mixed, men's is the toughest to crack, or even women's, right? Gender. Just because it's more nuanced and but didn't matter, right? Like having those 2 number 1 women overrode them not winning many men's. And then James played well in mixed. So it worked out, Klitch looks like a genius.
No, definitely. It did work out. And they had a nice balance of solid and upside. And when you have the upside of Anna, James, and DJ, and that was the missing piece, was the rock. And Kawamotos are rocks. That's what they are. So it's a very nice team construction. And I think that's a factor as well. I think that when you're, here we go again with poker, but when you're playing a poker tournament that has very even payouts, you play a more solid, close to the vest regular strategy. If you play a poker tournament that has super top heavy payouts or possibly a winner take all situation, you have to adjust your play to be more risky. So even though some of the format that players are like, oh, you want that solid, you don't want to make errors, we're playing rally scoring, the payouts are so top heavy with it being like maybe 6,000 or 7,000 for second and 25K for first, that you don't want all rocks. You need some upside. You need someone to get hot in a specific day or a specific match. So I think it's very there's a lot of ways to construct a team, and I think having some upside balanced with a couple rocks is probably the way to go.
Yep. And I think teams would be silly not to take some risk, right? If you've consistently missed the bracket play, getting out of group stage, do some silly stuff, like take some risks, take some chances. It's the last event of the year, right? So why not? And yeah, for people that don't know, so teams will, this is the last event for the teams that players are on, because there will be an additional 4 teams, I believe, next year. I don't know if that's not final or confirmed or anything like that. But to my knowledge, we're going to go from 12 teams to 16 teams. And that's going to require a completely new draft. So there'll be a complete redraft of players. And so this will be kind of the last match for everybody that's on their respective team.
Yeah, definitely. So it'll be real interesting. And I think you're right. I mean, take a shot, take a shot. So, yeah, we'll just have to see, because I think there'll be some fireworks in the next week or two. A couple people getting dropped, a couple pickups. No idea how it's going to play out, but it'll be interesting.
Yeah, and I think even this last one, it was interesting to have a couple really, really good players, not who I would consider definitely top 24 men in the pool, like Eden. Eden's a good player. I mean, obviously much better at men's than mixed, but he's also a very good singles player.
Yes.
So that was surprising to me.
Yeah, that was the issue. And I think the first MLP, I commentated a couple of his matches, and that was really the issue. It's just so different from how he plays his standard men's style to being the right side rock for Andre, and then to switch over to that take a lot of court situation was he probably didn't play his best. But I mean, there's a lot of talent in there, and like you said, he is a good singles player, which is a factor. So also I wanted to say a couple of things about so that makes the Mad Drops have Mary, Brasha, Corinne, Julian Arnold, and AJ. So this will be an interesting situation that we talked about earlier. That's 2 left side men. Now they're both very good, and they very well might get it figured out and steamroll a lot of the men's teams in the next MLP. But neither one is particularly comfortable on the right side. So they both like to play left, and so we'll see if that's a factor or just their talent blows through that factor, and they're a great team. So like you mentioned with the Ranchers, really high level women, very good men too, but really high level women, and the Drops are now kind of the opposite with two solid girls but 2 very high end men. So we'll kind of see how that plays out if they can sneak out a few women's doubles with Corinne and Mary. I think that their men's doubles and their mix is going to be very solid. So I think that could be a good team as well. So we'll see.
I think in terms of constructing a Major League Pickleball team, I think I would lean more towards the Rancher style of having 2 really kind of more top heavy women. Because I think when you look at mixed, typically it's usually mixed results are usually dependent on the level of the woman more so than the guy. They're seeing more balls. So I think in terms of team construction, I think having 2 top women is probably more beneficial than having 2 top men.
No, I totally agree.
Yeah.
So not only from a depth of talent perspective, but just exactly like you said, they play more of a role in the mixed. So so they're just more valuable. They're just more valuable than a man. And it's not like a crazy huge difference, but it's a difference. And in this format, you better take all the edges you can get.
Yeah. I guess it'll be interesting to see. So AJ will play with Mary, I'm guessing again, and then Julian will play with who's the other woman?
Prof.
Prof. Okay. So you have so that's the sacrifice they're making, right? They're gonna be good at mix. You have two good men's mix players that are both left side players. So they're like, okay, let's hope we can figure out men's and figure out somebody on the right, and which I'm guessing is going to be Julian on the right. And then they both move so well laterally and mix that they can cover a lot of court. So I mean, I think they're going to bank on the guy taking over and mix, but that's tough to do.
Yeah, no, it's you're absolutely right. So yeah, it'll be very interesting. And I don't know. I think either one. I think I could see the mix going either way for them. I don't. Does Mary normally play the right? I think she plays the right, and Maggie plays the left when they play women's. So
yeah, I just know AJ's played a ton with Mary, so I would imagine they'd stay together.
Right. Yeah, that makes sense. But yeah, no, it's I like the. I mean, it's a cool format. You know,
it's super fun. Yeah,
shaking it up. How's this going to work? How's that going to work? And it gives us something to talk about, so that's good.
And that's the thing we could analyze. I mean, this is one trade, right? Imagine if there were 4 or 5, right? Like this, it's super fun, and this is why, like I think, you know, talking earlier in this episode about emulating the tennis tours versus creating our own unique pro format. I would love to see Major League Pickleball full time, because just think about all these storylines and cool trades and stuff that are happening. Like, it's unlimited amounts of content and talking points. And that's why you see like all these talking heads on, you know, ESPN talking endlessly about these leagues, because there's so much content, so many different things to talk about.
Yeah, totally. And I like it too, that it's still like, if you just did a MLP format for tennis, like there's not many people that are going to fall through the cracks. Meaning that you can just find a stud still in pickleball. Like tennis, you're not just going to pick up someone that can be like a real game changer, because it's just so tight. But now, like, if you just, who knows whoever it might be, Hunter Johnson, maybe whatever, Stefan or
that has high upside,
or Tardio, that all of a sudden is in that 3 or 4 months from when the draft happened to when the tournament is, could literally be a top 5 player of the 24, you know, and that can still happen. And that's pretty cool. That's pretty cool.
Super, yeah, it's really cool. Who have we seen that with?
So let's say I would say that probably Lena.
Yep.
Lena was drafted very low, and she had a big first MLP. I think she probably played not quite as good in the second one, but still very good.
She went undefeated first time around, so it's hard to.
Well, there you go.
Second time.
Yes. There you go. I mean, you saw. Let's see. Pablo Tellez stepped in beautifully for the 5s as well, and I know I'm overlooking a few of them. I mean, James Ignatowicz, you know, who was when that draft happened, he was on no one's radar. He shouldn't have been. And, you know, sure enough, a few months later, he's a top 2 or 3 singles player, and, you know, probably a top, you know, 10 or 12 mixed player. Boom. And that's off the waiver wire. You know, that's off the waiver wire. So, it's happened plenty, and it's going to happen more. And it's good stuff. Yeah.
And it'll be interesting to see, especially, I don't know when the draft's going to happen for next year, but, you know, let's say it happens in December or something, and there's a couple month gap of when guys are training in the winter. Like, it's going to keep happening because pickleball is so young and so new, but that's what makes it so exciting.
Yeah. I mean, some guy's going to go in that 3 months, go from number 40 to number 10.
Yep.
And, you know, be a big factor in the, in the whatever. And I actually want to see kind of if it's possible that, that some of the, I know Stratman was PPA contracted. I know you were PPA contracted. I don't know if any of the other PPA people could possibly, who knows, drop mid-season or something like that, and possibly be available as well to the MLP format. So there's lots of ways to get kind of people that can really make a big difference in the mix.
That'll be interesting to see. But also on the inverse of that, it'll be interesting to see if PPA pulls any players and locks them in, you know?
No, I think so. I think that could be very reasonable. They could make a really nice offer to someone that they're targeting that has made a nice name for them on the APP MLP side of it, and could be a factor.
Yeah, so I think that's a real concern if I'm MLP APP, because you want, like, APP was so interesting this year because you had all these new faces, you had all this new talent, and you don't want to be the feeder tour. You don't want to be the feeder organization. You don't want to be the feeder league. You want to be the league. And I think that's still up for grabs. So
yeah,
if you don't lock down your top talent, somehow make it enticing enough to where they don't want to take that PPA deal. Like, I think you have to do something, right?
You have to do something, right?
You have to do something.
So yeah, I totally agree with you. And yeah, I think obviously you can't deny that the top couple in both genders definitely favors the PPA. But if you did a 16 player each gender, like how MLP is right now, I think it would be closer than some people think. If you have to make the teams even, kind of thing, you know.
Yep.
So
snake draft style.
Yeah, snake draft style. Maybe the APP could pick the PPA teams and vice versa, or whatever. I'm just you know throwing crap out there. But as it gets a little bit deeper, it's a lot closer. I think the top couple is definitely PPA side, but there's a lot of talent on the APP tour, a lot of people coming in. So it's I think it's both possible, like you said, for each tour to be the number one.
Yeah, I think if we're looking at beginning of year to now, the gap's gotten much smaller between PPA and APP and MLP.
But no, for sure. I totally agree. Especially with the depth.
Yep. That's all I got today, my man.
No, I think that was solid. Looks like we went about an hour 20, and that's my activity for the next 48 hours. So I'm just chilling.
Yeah, you need to relax now. Yeah. Headphones off, take a nap.
Have to.
All right.
For sure.
Okay, buddy.
Until next time, let's try to maybe get together next week sometime. I'm sure we'll have something good to talk about.
Yeah, let's get your mic fixed. Let's get these technical difficulties worked out. Oh, sorry, not you. Prof. Get Prof on.
Prof, yeah, she's got to get on that. I'm a little disappointed in her, but we'll get through it. We'll get through it.
We will. I mean, you guys are a power couple.
Something like that, yeah.
All right. Bye, everyone.
All right, later, guys.
Because you know why?
Why?
Because it feels right.
It feels right.
Legendary.